Hey, if you've ever stood in your kitchen staring at a bowl of dough that just won't come together, or tried to mash a batch of potatoes only to end up with a lumpy mess, you know how frustrating that can be. I've spent a lot of time helping friends decide whether a countertop mixer is worth the counter space and the price tag before they commit. In this video I'm going to walk you through exactly what the Globe SP10 Quart Countertop Planetary mixer offers, who will actually get a benefit from it, and who can safely walk away. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of kitchen where a mixer of this size makes sense. The SP10 is a full-size 10-quart unit, so it's not a tiny 5-quart mini-mix that you'd slip into a dorm room. It's designed for people who regularly make large batches, think families that bake a double-sheet cake on the weekend, homebrewers that need to mash grains, or anyone who does serious batch cooking like homemade sauces or large quantity breads. If you're the type who whips up a quick batch of cookie dough once a month, you'll probably find the footprint and capacity overkill. One of the first things I noticed when I dug into the specs is that this mixer uses a gear-driven, high-torque transmission. In plain English, that means the motor can keep turning the beaters through thick, sticky mixtures without stalling. I've seen cheaper mixers where the motor burns out after a few minutes of kneading heavy dough, and that's a real money sink. With the Globe's custom-built motor paired with heat-treated hardened steel alloy gears and shafts, the expectation is that it will handle thick bread dough or dense cake batter without missing a beat. The practical upside here is that you won't have to stop and scrape the bowl every few minutes. The mixer will power through, which is a time saver and reduces the chance of undermixing. The SP10 comes with 3 fixed speeds. Some people love having a whole slew of speed settings, but in my experience the sweet spot for most home bakers is having a low, medium, and high that are clearly differentiated. The low speed is perfect for gentle folding, think adding chocolate chips or dry ingredients without overmixing. The medium speed covers most cake batters and cookie doughs, while the high setting tackles stiff bread dough that needs a strong, consistent pull. Having only 3 speeds might seem limiting to a professional pastry chef, but for the home user it simplifies decision-making. You won't waste time hunting for the right number on a dial, you just choose the range that feels right for the recipe. A feature that's often talked about in the mix-in community is the front-mounted controls with a 60-minute digital timer. The timer is a practical tool when you're multitasking. Say you're making a batch of mashed potatoes while the mixer is running a roux, you can set the timer to remind you before the mixture reaches a point where it might start to scorch or overwork. The last batch recall option keeps your most recent speed and timer settings stored, which is handy if you're regularly repeating the same recipe. I've seen people get annoyed by having to remember where they left the dial on a generic mixer. This little memory feature removes that friction. Now, let's talk about the real-world downside. The unit is a countertop model, and at 10 quarts it's a fairly heavy piece of equipment. Just the motor and steel housing alone can weigh upwards of 30 pounds. Moving it in and out of storage isn't a one-handed job, so you'll need a clear, sturdy countertop that can bear the weight without wobbling. If you live in a small kitchen with limited counter space, you might find that the mixer's footprint competes with your prep area. Also, the lack of variable speed means you can't fine-tune the mixer for very delicate operations, such as whipping egg whites to soft peaks. For those specific tasks, a separate handheld mixer or a stand mixer's whisk attachment could be a better fit. Another point that pops up a lot in user forums is the noise level. Gear-driven mixers, especially those with a high-torque motor, can be louder than belt-driven competitors. If your kitchen is open to a living room or you have young children who nap in the morning, you might notice the hum and clatter more than you'd expect. It's not a silent appliance by any means, but the noise is fairly typical for a machine of this power. Some people mitigate it by placing the mixer on a rubber mat, which also helps stabilize the unit on the countertop. When I compare value, the key question is, are you getting enough utility to justify the price? The SP10 sits in a mid-range price bracket for planetary mixers. You're paying for the robust motor, the hardened steel gears, and the digital timer. If you're a frequent baker, a home cook who makes large batches, or someone who wants a reliable machine that won't quit on you during a